Hello and welcome. This is Wednesday night, and you are watching a man called Jay back again with Sudan Knowledge. Now, tonight, we have got four presentations. As I have been saying, that Sudan Knowledge is not only a group for or an organization for Sudanese only, but it's also inclusive. Say, tonight, let us start here. We have got Adil Ahmed Dafala, Airbus Operation Limited UK. And now that is a very big job. As I keep saying, Africans, they're everywhere and they're in big jobs. Then we have got El Tigani Abdel Galil. This is from the University of Jazeera Water Management and Irrigation, Sudan. Big job that is. Then we have got Suleiman Derar. He's a journalist, but he has got an organization called the African Global Media and Community Development UK. And then we have got a man from the Caribbean, but he resides here in the UK. His name is Rudy Page, and his organization is Enhanced Leadership Insights. So there you have it. So, and I am happy just to be presenting you to Sudan Knowledge, but without having to waste your time. Here are the presentations. By the way, these presentations were recorded in 2016 at the university, at East London University, Stratford to be precise. So, without further ado, let us get to the presentations. We start with Adil Dafala. Yeah. Coming up. Adil Dafala.
Thank you very much, everybody, and I hope that you have a cup of tea to refresh you, because I'm going to send you to sleep, apparently. So I'm glad to be the first, presenter of this session. And as you can see, I will speak about, the role of the manufacturing sector in the Sudanese economy. And just to help your appetite, actually, this is a picture from the golden age of the Sudan. It is the Sudan Railways workshops in Adbara, and it is in 1960s, where Sudan actually used to have, an industry used to have an important role in the Sudanese economy. Unfortunately, this is not necessarily the case now. So by way of introduction, it's very easy to see that the Sudanese economy now, it is in a state of crisis. And this is not my actual judgment. This is a judgment of economic experts, for example, by Professor Isam Muhammad, who said that the performance of the Sudanese economy is an enigma of failures, even with the potential of country's resources. So it is not a secret anymore. It's fair to say that Sudanese economy is agriculturally based. The role of the industry generally and manufacturing in particular is very small. You can actually say that it's about 8.5% of the GDP come from the industrial sector, and that shows very low importance. And even, by things like the Nation Masters, they rank the Sudan as a country with low industrial production. However, we have to remember that all developing countries which wanted to actually get out of the poverty zone, they had adopted industrialization as an important part of their development model. So Sudan will not be the exception. So there is no escaping from the fact that we have to improve. So the Sudan needs to to adopt an integrated sustainable development plan where industry represents the pivotal point. And when I say the word industry here, I use it very specifically. I know in the literature these days, you can find the word industry is used for everything. They use it for, services, for, even interestingly, there is something called sex industry in this world now. I do not mean that. I mean the industry, as I said here, refer to categories of production industry with measurable physical output, such as manufacturing and transport, ICT, and so on. So we are using it with very specific reference. So reviewing the contribution and role of manufacturing sector in the Sudan is a huge subject. I have no time, to do it, and even in 1 or 2 papers you cannot do it. So I will take only 3 aspects, to cover here: the Sudanese manufacturing landscape, contribution to the economy, and employment and labor satisfaction. So I'll start with the Sudanese manufacturing landscape. At a glance, you can see that, first of all, the size of the manufacturing sector is very small. And you can see by the blue colors here, it is mainly dominated by small-scale industries. Here I'm talking about industries of less than 10 employees. The large-scale industries is very small. Also, you can tell very easily that there are 3 states, that is Khartoum, if this works. Anyway, Khartoum, South Darfur, and Al Jazeera, which dominate the picture, and they have more than double the industrial establishments, both in large and small sectors, relative to any other state. Sorry, am I covering you? Okay. So if we want to summarize that, I can say that historically, large-scale industries are limited to the agro-food industries, just like sugar and grain mills and so on. And these are still representing more than 50% of the manufacturing output and more than 50% of the manufacturing employment. The 1960s and 70s, we started, to see the textile industry coming into the picture. In the late 1990s, we have manufacturing of heavy military and civil machinery, motor vehicle industries, expansion of the petroleum industry, which added a little bit to the manufacturing sector. And more recently, we have adventures in the aerospace industry as well, with the Safat complex in 2009. However, interestingly, all these recent things from 1990 coming onwards, for whatever reason, they had been all established under the auspices of the military authority, except the petroleum industry. So presumably, you can say that there is implied assumption here that for some reasons, they think only the military can actually establish and manage such big projects. However, the fact that the petroleum industry, which was under the Ministry of Energy, it was very successful, and it was not under the military. So it is everybody's guess why all these industries, civil or military, they were all done under the auspices of the military establishment. More importantly to us today is that the impact of these recent additions is not yet felt in the economy. They actually represent only 1% of the GDP and 3% to the manufacturing employment. So they are still, to be felt from the economical point of view. However, I must say that to be fair to them, they are ranked amongst the best in terms of compensation of employees, in terms of wages, benefits, and so on. Okay, what is the contribution to the economy? These figures here are based on the comprehensive industrial survey, which is being carried out in 2001. And there is nothing, more recent than that, unfortunately. But still, it tells, the state at that time, which relatively, there is no real movement in it since then. So the total manufacturing share of GDP, and was done in the Sudan before secession of South Sudan. It was 9.5%. Now, if you take 1% is coming from the South, then if you want to reflect the reality of Sudan today, the contribution would be 8.5%, which is very small. In terms of value adding per capita, and this is to get the whole output of the manufacturing sector and divided by the population, then each of us have got $90 per year, not per hour. So you can compare this with a figure of 5,000 for the G7, and this can immediately tell you that it's less than 2% of the G7. It is extremely low. The largest establishments in terms of value adding, again, is big establishments of more than 100 employees. This represents 68% of the manufacturing value added, with the small scale industries contributing only 16%, whereas it's very small. However, they contribute to the overall employment of the manufacturing. So they don't have real value adding to the economy, but they can be helpful in terms of rural development. The biggest contributors, as I said before, were the sugar and grain mills, which is food technologies, with 6.1% to the GDP. If you compare this to the 8.5 of the total manufacturing, you can see the dominance of these industries. The petroleum comes as 1%. This is why I said it is not really huge. Interestingly, the motor vehicle and medical appliances have got negative contribution. Well, perhaps the motor vehicle industry is being affected because they have to import. Really? Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, but this means that these two industries have got negative trade balance. And this is the case for the whole manufacturing sector anyway. Contribution to the employment is 1.7%, mainly coming from small scale industries, which is 40%, despite the fact that they represent over 90% of the total establishments. Now, share to export, only 12.8% comes from the industry, and 21% is the share of imports. And this shows why the manufacturing sector has got a negative trade balance. I think I'll gallop here a little bit. So it is low importance to the economy. Most value added comes from the largest establishment, and it is not exposed to the export and much dependent on import. This reflects weak industry and negative trade balance. Employment and labor satisfaction. Okay, labor compensation per employee per year is about $1,400. So actually, if you want to break that down, this comes to 50 cents per hour, half a dollar per hour. If you compare this with US civil figures, it's about $23. So it is less than 2% of and this shows that the manufacturing is not really very rewarding for employees. I think I'll escape some of these just due to time, but the figures are here for you all to see. I can actually summarize it by saying that, and take my word for it. Manufacturing labor compensation is low. The manufacturing characterized by cheap labor and material intensity. And the rate of return, by the way, this is very important thing, on investment is actually, for the private sector, is relatively high. It's about 9 times. So if you spend certain capital on industry, you will get about 9 times that in terms of return. So it is quite rewarding. But the maximum actually return on investment comes from the tobacco industry, and believe it or not, that is about 1,500 times for the tobacco industry. And the largest compensation actually comes from the public sector, followed by mixed public and foreign, followed by mixed Sudanese private and foreign, Sudanese private only, and last comes foreign private sector. And this shows that, you can conclude from this, that public oversight is required to safeguard employees' interest. So you need some kind of policing or monitoring of foreign investment in order to safeguard the employees' interest. So general observations, Sudan is far away from having effective manufacturing sector. It lacks a strategic direction. There is no industrial strategy or industrial policy or even industrial planning in the Sudan, which is really interesting. So effective manufacturing sector is a must-have if we want to get out of poverty zone. So the Sudan, to benefit from opportunities of created globally, because now, for example, I give you, I work for Airbus. The aerospace industry, we have over 400 suppliers worldwide. So big industries are going globally. If we want to take advantage of that, we need to be ready for that by actually develop the capability and improve quality. This means quality education, self-reliance, investment in heavy industrialization, and good governance. Just by the way of making some recommendations to improve the performance of the manufacturing sector in Sudan, we need to inject heavy dose of industrialization to the economy. We need good governance with anti-corruption drive, political stability. We need to create investment attractive environment. And we need to overhaul all existing facilities and invest in new ones. So we have to build capacity, develop capability, develop infrastructure. Additionally, we need to invest in education, training, and technology transfer. We need, because these things are actually a requirement for verification of product quality and suppliers' credentials. So if we want to be suppliers to Airbus, for example, they will check, what we have. Do we have the appropriate number of engineers, the appropriate number of, and what qualifications they have? So we need training, we need good quality education as requirements for verification of product quality and suppliers' credential. And we should have quality as priority, and we should have these things, as a priority. Also, regular appearance at international stages, because this actually raises Sudanese industrial profile, highlights capability, and improves networking. So this facilitates technology transfer, as mentioned in one of the earlier presentations, because I think for your, what is the master, the PhD degrees, being built over people going to conferences and talk to other people and attract people, to supervise the PhDs. This is the kind of things which you actually gain. So it facilitates technology transfer and also attracts foreign investment when you are talking about industry. I can now conclude by saying that the Sudanese economy is agriculturally based. So competitive manufacturing sector requires investment in infrastructure, technology transfer, education, and training. Flourishing industrial sector requires clear development path, good governance. You need industrial strategy, industrial policy, and clean source of energy. And you need regular attendance in international stages. External training, internationally recognized professional qualifications are also very important. And I have made some recommendations. I hope they will contribute to improving the standard of manufacturing sector in the Sudan. Thank you very much.
My name is Tijan Abdijalil. My colleague Muhammad Jali we are from University of Jazeera. Muhammad Jali is economist and I'm water management specialist. So, as you may know, Sudan is an agriculture-based country, and agriculture contributes a lot in providing raw materials, and local industries account for 30% to 40% of export earnings and provide income and employment of major group of the population. However, agriculture consumes a lot of water. And unfortunately, so far, water in Sudan treated just an engineering issue, just to supply water. For what purpose? No one evaluate the water in the field and the returns from using water. And there is a competition on water. I'm trying to evaluate or to put value for water used in agriculture, as agriculture is the biggest consumptive water in the world and particularly in Sudan. In Sudan, we have Jazeera Irrigated Scheme, is the largest irrigated scheme worldwide. Gash area, we have so many small pumping schemes along the Nile, and agriculture consumes about 95% of our available water in Sudan. Therefore, it is very important to evaluate this water or to put a certain value to our exact value to the water to encourage farmers to use it efficiently or wisely. Therefore, the aim of this paper is to determine the value used in agriculture. I want to put value because policymakers asking about the value of water and the cost of water so that they collect the exact value from farmers or from users. Why I'm thinking into evaluate or to put an economic value to the water, because this statement, water should be treated as an economic good, is very stated in so many international conferences. For example, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development held in Rio de Janeiro, and the World Summit on Water Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, and Freshwater Resources Forum. It is stated very clearly that water should be treated as an economic good. And another reasons is that valuation of water is one way of making users more aware about its value. Unfortunately, so far, farmers treated water just like a free. Decision makers also need to know the exact value of water to make corrective decisions when they are investing in water. So many problems in irrigated schemes. For example, there is a lot of money spent annually on operation and maintenance without significant progress in the output, particularly in Jazeera scheme. Recovery of operation and maintenance cost and other irrigation services cost are very low. There is a huge losses of water, cut out of growing areas. There is an accumulation of silt annually. There is a problem of productivity, low productivity. Also, there is the problem of water-associated diseases. All these problems, unfortunately, comes from low value of water. It is not an engineering problem, as others imagine. It is because no value of water. People treated water just like free gift. Therefore, all this problem just because of no real value of water. As I remember, there is a big workshop about Jazeera scheme in Sudan. When I raised my hand and said water treated like free, there is no value of water, some of the biggest members of the organizers said to me, "You are still young to speak about Jazeera." The methodology, in the methodology I visited Jazeera scheme or meet with the users or farmers. Also I visited Gash agriculture scheme and Gadarif area here. I used Jazeera scheme because Jazeera scheme is gravity irrigation scheme, controlled water. Flood irrigated scheme in Gash different irrigation systems. And in Gadarif, there is no irrigation. It is pure rain-fed agriculture. This is to exactly evaluate the water. Then I sit with farmers. I question them about their agricultural output and how much water they used. Also, I used kilowatt and crop models to estimate the water delivered for irrigation. These models are developed by FAO. Also, economic net return was estimated using net value from agriculture as the net value of agriculture equal gross value minus cost of cultivation. A value of water equal to net value of water with irrigation minus net value of water without irrigation over volume of water delivered for irrigation. The results, these are the results. These are, the blue one is the water required for sorghum in Jazeera, for example, in Gash agriculture scheme, spade irrigation, and in Gadarif rain-fed irrigation scheme. The water required minus effective rainfall, this give us the irrigation required. The volume of water or irrigation required in Jazeera like this annually or per faddan, per hectare, and this is for Ingash spade irrigation scheme in hectare. This is the net value of agriculture in graffiti system in Jazeera also, and spade irrigation system, and this is without irrigation system in rain-fed or in Gadarif area. Actually, I update this presentation, but unfortunately, Profamulum, this is the old one. No problem. With a few in animations. Finally, I calculated the net value of water like this. The value of water in graffiti irrigation system is about $0.005 US per hectare or per meter cube, and in spade irrigation $0.001 per meter cube. In graffiti irrigation system like Jazeera, because the cost is high, this is controlled water, and in Gash just flood water. This is because why the value is less than in graffiti system. Generally, the value of water in Sudan is below the global range of $0.01 US per meter cube to $2 per meter cube, and this has created a big problem. Some of the World Bank mission visited us at the University of Jazeera and says that we need to use the 6 million used in Jazeera scheme annually elsewhere, because this is waste of water. If this value, this is waste of water. This is why the big problems, our big problems in irrigated agriculture is the value of water. We give water free for users. Finally, the value of water used in agriculture is relatively low compared with the global range. Low productivity and high cost are behind the low value of water in agriculture sector. To put the real value of water in agriculture as the major consumptive sector will help into setting real value and cost of water, and hence policymakers will take corrective decisions on irrigated agriculture. And thank you.
As you can see, this is the map of the Horn of Africa, and all the refugees are coming from the Horn of Africa because there is instability, there is disorder, and there is drought, poverty, and a lot of things which drive people to leave their country and to go to other country. Actually, they come to Eastern Sudan by sea and by land as a transit place to go to Europe, and then you find them die in the sea or in Sinai desert. Actually, as I said, the three countries which export refugees to Eastern Sudan are Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Somalia. Eastern Sudan witnessed refugees from Eritrea since 1960 when they started the liberation war in Eritrea, and there were about 800,000 Eritreans. This is the official number, but the real number is more than that because we have tribes which are divided between Sudan and Eritrea. And there are also Ethiopians, they come from Ethiopia because there is, as I said, there is disorder and conflicts, and you know the population of Ethiopia is 100 million people. 40 million are Oromos, and they are having problems, and they come to work in Sudan in domestic jobs in Khartoum with the also the Somalis, you know, they left their country because of these problems, and they come to Sudan for as a transit country to go to Europe or America. Sudan was ranked as the fourth largest exporter of refugees in the world. But if you look at it, the second and the third are Somalia and Afghanistan, and we cannot call them countries because there are no governments there. And Sudan is also was pointed out by an American official as one of the main countries which are working in human trafficking. Slide 2, please. Yeah, as I said, this is refugees from Eritrea. We mentioned this. Go to the other one, please. 3. These are the tribes which are divided by. Yeah, the tribes which are divided between Eritrea and Sudan are Beni Amir, Habab, Rashaida, Shukriya. And therefore, these people, when they come from Eritrea to Sudan, they become Sudanese. And when they go from Sudan to Eritrea, they are Eritreans. And this, we have to admit, you know, that there are colonial borders and there are ethnic and blood borders. All these borders are artificial and they were made in Berlin in closed rooms. Okay, they didn't recognize what and they didn't appreciate the unity of the tribes. Okay, but for history, we have to know that part of Eritrea and until Harar in Somalia and Ethiopia used to be part of Eastern Sudan. This is about Ethiopia. As I said, the population of Ethiopia is 100 million. Imagine that our neighbors are 100 million. They can emerge, you know, Sudan. Okay, good. And these are our brothers, the Somalians, are running away to Sudan as a transit place to go to reunite with their families in America and Europe. Impact of refugees in Eastern Sudan. You know, Sudan is one of the most marginalized areas. Eastern Sudan is the most marginalized areas in Sudan, according to NGO SO Sahel, which points out that there is low levels of rainfall and an increasing incidence of drought, increasing competition over an already limited natural resource basis, growing pressure on limited public services and infrastructure, and a saturated informal economy that is leading to growing levels of unemployment or underemployment. Actually, also the refugees, they have destroyed and polluted the environment. 450,000 acres of forest were demolished by the refugees. But at the end of the day, they are our brothers, and we have obligation to them. But we want this is too much for the Sudanese to help the refugees. The international community should intervene and help in this. Map of human trafficking. Yeah. This is the map of the human trafficking. You will find it all goes through Eastern Sudan, either to Sinai or to Europe by sea. Therefore, Eastern Sudan was forced to be in the middle of the international conflict or the regional conflict between Israel and the Arabs. And actually, the human trafficking, the other one, this was described, human trafficking was described by the EU ambassador as human trafficking is a serious violation of human rights and is a crime that strips people of their rights, ruins their dreams, and robs them of their dignity. It is a global problem and no country is immune. Human trafficking was there in Eastern or Sudan, between Sudan and Saudi Arabia, historically. Recently, America, as I said, America classified Sudan as one of the main human trafficking, which is practicing. Sudan is practicing human trafficking. Human trafficking has flourished now for, as I said, for many reasons. One of them, we have to look, as my colleague said, to the causes and not to the results and the consequences. The causes of illegal migration and human trafficking is what? It is here from Europe. It is not from the grassroots. Europe has banned the legal migration to Europe, and they have created a lot of obstacles on their visas to come to Europe. This is what has flourished the human trafficking. One of the reasons is that the availability of weapons which was left from the weapons which were left from the wars in the region or in Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, or even in the borders of Sudan. The need of refugees to travel to Europe and their ability to pay the high cost. The presence of adventurous people with fast four-wheel drive cars from certain tribes who were famous for smuggling. The implications of security staff according to the international organizations and victims' statements. The enormous amount of money and international network involved in this trade. The vast borders of Sudan, which is 900 kilometers between Sudan and Ethiopia, 600 kilometers. 5 minutes left? Okay. Yeah. The gangs of human trafficking also, they are kidnapping young boys and girls and asking for ransom. Implications of security. Yeah, the implications of security staff in Sudan and Egypt, they are involved. You know, security people are involved because there is a lot of money. And here, this guy, lucky guy, he's a lucky guy. He was caught as a suspect of the chief of a gang. And then when they deported him to Italy, they found that he's the wrong person, and he was lucky to have asylum in Italy. Yeah, this is as an evidence of, the next one, as an evidence of, and the problem is the international military intervention in the Red Sea, because they said they are fighting the pirates, but they have shot many poor Sudanese fishermen. And they were raiding the convoys, the Sudanese convoys on the coastal area in eastern Sudan, and even the capital itself was bombarded. Next one. Yeah, the UN. Yeah, the UN limited role of UN in refugee issue. You know, the UN wants to get rid of the refugees, and Europe wants to get rid of them. Therefore, they want to keep them jailed in Sudan. They went to Sudan, and they gave the Sudanese government money to keep these people there. This is against the international law because this is the second country. Europe and UN should deal with the causes. They should implement in the original countries democracy, rule of law, human rights. Then they can stop the people from forced migration. The people. Yeah, I go. Yeah, say Europe in an attempt to stop forced migration to Europe. You see, Hungary has built a fence which is 120 kilometers to prevent people from going there. We go to proposals, please. Yeah, this is a fence in Hungary. They want to stop the people. After they come, they reach Europe, they want to stop them. Maybe they will deport them back to Sudan. I think for the proposals, as I said, to solve this problem, is to engage the native administration, clergy chiefs, and political parties in combating human trafficking, establishing, receiving well-equipped points for asylum seekers by sea in the Red Seas, remote coastal villages, extending aid and support from the UN and EU to the local population, building training institutes, agricultural and industrial projects for both refugees and local people, restoring the environment, promoting health, education, nutrition, and prevention medicine, eliminating chronic diseases, TB and HIV, and malaria, building hospitals, schools, and roads. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Rudy Page, and in fact, I have to thank Professor Allen because I got involved quite late. So I think only sometime last month I got my invitation, and I'm not an academic as well, so I've been impressed with your papers, but I do work with academics. That's the most important thing. So I actually specialize in policy implementation. So my skill within any system, whether it's a health system or an economy, international trade, or regenerating communities, getting people involved in neighborhoods, is to actually understand the dynamics, the culture, the politics, and the link between learning, the local economy, and the skills, and how communities work, and how you communicate with them, and then deliver on whatever the policy is. So actually implement it, and if where necessary, create the learning for the individuals, so that the individuals who are tasked to carry out the job will actually do it. And it's also about supporting local enterprise as well. How do you encourage local people to get involved in enterprise? And how do you link the creativity of people? And how do you link together the supply chains that are in a local economy? And if there are difficulties, actually understand where they are. And then also to take research reports and look at the recommendations, and then be able to say to people, right, this is what the recommendations say, and this is what we're actually going to do about it. So it's a term that we use in my world, the instruction to deliver. So I'm given the instruction to deliver. And also sometimes, particularly within the health system here, I work within the NHS here, when there's difficulties within the system, that there may be staff, it may be service redesign, then somebody like myself will will go in and work out where the difficulties are, where are the disruptive influences, and then to work out what recommendations and how we're going to put the system right. Because all systems work with harmony. And talking about harmony then as well, it's about how you work with teams. And we always talk about what we need are cohesive, productive, and effective team working. So again, and particularly in a system like here, where you have so many different cultures, so diverse cultures, so not just in backgrounds, but of course the way people think and the way they work. And then of course within any health system, you have the different professions. You got your medics, you got your nurses, your midwives, you got the healthcare workers, you got your administrative staff, and it's being able then to understand how do we support those staff. If you think of our frontline staff, our frontline workers, how do you ensure that the system is enabling them to carry out the work that they need to do? And at the same time, we can't forget the role and the voice of the public, and particularly when you're delivering public service and the experience, the quality of service, all those things are really important. And so to be able to balance all those interests, all those stakeholder interests, is very much the type of work that I do, so I facilitate it. And there's a term that we use is all voices must be heard. And then one of the other key areas of the work that I've been involved in over 9.5 years, and that's to work with the Department of Health, appointing senior leaders within the NHS. So in any health system, you'll have large, complex organisations, and you have to make sure that you've got the best people at the top of the organisation, competent people who are running the system. So I'm very much involved in the appointment of the people who actually run the system. So that's really my role. And I've worked in about 21 countries, and so as I say, I'm very much a practitioner. Right, so that's enough about me. Now, my work in the diaspora. So where do I come from? So I'm a Caribbean. I'm a Caribbean directly. So I'm half Jamaican. I'm sure you've heard of Jamaica, of course, and half. So that was my father, and my mother came from Montserrat. Has anybody? Have you heard of Montserrat? They got a big volcano. So that's in the Eastern Caribbean, very small island. There's only 1/3 of the island left now, due to the volcano crisis a few years ago. So I have worked there, and that's been quite interesting in terms of the impact it had on the people's minds. From an island that was very successful, self-reliant, to now an island that has to really operate under grant aid from the UK. So, and I was born in London, so all my work has a strong Caribbean feel. I've worked in South Africa and Sierra Leone and Ghana as well. So again, I also understand my African heritage as well. So the diaspora agenda is really important to me in terms of, and particularly in an advanced economy like the UK, of actually understanding yourself culturally, where do you fit in within an advanced economy like here, and then how then do you utilize your ability to operate in this economy to help the developing economies, Africa and Caribbean. And I just have a particular interest in the Caribbean because I spend quite a lot of work there. And one of my case studies will come from there. Right, so I'll kind of start then. So over the last 2 years, as a practitioner, I've looked at the way the Caribbean diaspora, so that's the governments, the various organizations that operate, and how they interact. And for me, what they probably should be doing to improve in delivery for stakeholders. So my position is that system leadership is needed. That's the first thing. System leadership is needed. And so the transformation of the traditional diaspora leadership, management, and involvement model needs strategic leadership in governance, structure, and strategy. Evidence-informed policy formulation and implementation is key to involving professional services and practitioners with a proven track record of achievement within host countries and who have also demonstrated a personal and professional commitment towards improving the lives of young people and adults within their countries of origin. I'm proposing a diaspora delivery system. And this delivery system will serve this purpose as it is aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and encompasses 4 key priorities for achieving inclusive growth and development cooperation. So that's international trade and logistics, rural growth and supply chains, global health and wellness, and learning and skills development. The diaspora delivery system will generate research and ideas to inform organizational planning and institutional development. Academic partnerships are essential. Global diaspora knowledge sharing roundtables and forums such as today are vital for networking and building relationships. The platform will be developed as an infrastructure that is attractive to independent service providers and talent from diverse backgrounds that can be transformed into a marketplace. The diaspora delivery system business model is knowledge-driven with a systematic approach to value creation and coordination of assets. Sorry, next one. Yeah. Cross-sectorial management consultants. I'm a management consultant, so hence why I make sure we're mentioned. Researchers and entrepreneurs. And that's really important to actually understand how you actually get policy delivery. And I'm always saying the importance of working with academics, because what I want from academics is clarity and definition. So clarity and definition. So cross-sectorial management consultants, researchers and entrepreneurs with leadership capabilities and relevant competencies for implementing shared values, vision and communication strategies. And that word value, shared values, can be quite a challenge when you're constructing teams, getting different groups of individuals to work together, as we always talk about working and thinking together. So shared values, vision and communication strategies will be working and thinking together to produce workable plans and strategies that are capable of integrating skills and expertise with infrastructure investment. I'd just like to speak quickly about a case study. So recently, so this is with RAFA International Development Agency and Blood for Life within the health system here. So recently, there was a large-scale medical equipment donation program led by 2 diaspora-led organizations, RAFA International Development Agency and Blood for Life. And so that was one agency from African background and one from a Caribbean background. And they were able to collaborate and under the Global Health Programme, source medical equipment from NHS Blood and Transplant and medical advices, and actually working with other diaspora organisations, churches, faith-based organisations, civic organisations, were able to arrange the donation of a mobile blood collection unit to the National Blood Transfusion Service of Jamaica. And also that initiative was supplied equipment to Antigua and Barbuda, Ghana, Grenada, St. Lucia, and Lebanon. And that's a very good example of being able to work within the system here and to really source a major piece of capital equipment for a country abroad. The World Bank states that reliable logistics is indispensable to integrate global value chains and reap the benefit of trade opportunities for growth and poverty reduction. So diaspora professionals and entrepreneurs can utilize their access to chambers of commerce, trade associations, and their market insight to promote international trade as a tool for local economic development. So international trade, so what we're really saying is that by trading and doing business between the developed countries and the developing countries, that's the best way to help those countries and to drive their local economies. Because it's obviously the outcomes that you get from international trade will be to generate income and employment for growth, development and poverty alleviation. It is a well-known fact that diaspora communities are not just motivated by profit, but also invest in the health, education, economic and tourism infrastructure for reasons of patriotism and personal commitment. Diaspora heritage and generational relationships are a powerful source of intellectual capital and know-how and should be nurtured, respected, and utilized to the benefit of stakeholders at all levels. And what I'm really driving at there is that the diaspora, we have to create the plans, we have to create the strategies, and then enter the marketplace in our origin countries. Next, please. The World Bank Logistics Performance Index. Has anybody heard of it? Can I just ask that question? Have you heard of the World Bank? That's really important. So if you Google World Bank or Logistics Performance Index, so the last publication is 2014, so it's actually called LPI Index 2014, and it measures all of the countries around the world, their trading and service delivery habits, and the way the economies. It's really about trade in goods and services, and it's really interesting. And there's a lot of good deep learning in there in terms of the use of trade and services to develop the economy. The UN Sustainable Development Goals, the National Development Plans 2030, these are all common platforms for all countries around the world. So if we actually understand these particular policies, we can actually connect these to our own policies. So again, it's almost like utilizing the policies that are driving the development system, and we connect to those and we can be pulled along and make our contribution. And of course, we've had a change here in the UK where we've really been given a new impetus to international trade because of the UK voting to leave the EU. So that actually is going to create a lot of opportunities. And namely, the recent UK Caribbean Ministerial Forum in Bahamas under the theme, Building a Stronger Partnership for Sustainable Growth and Development. So what I found interesting recently, there was a book called Achieving a Resilient Future for Small States, Caribbean 2050. And reading that book, there was a statement in there which I found interesting, which can apply to any country. and any region as well within a country, is that it said countries in the region need to develop a strategic, collaborative, and coordinated approach to interacting with the international community. And I regard the diaspora, here in the diaspora, we are part of that international community. Let me start that again. Countries in the region need to develop a strategic, collaborative, and coordinated approach to interacting with the international community to achieve their vision of the Caribbean of the future. And of course, that applies to all countries regardless. A focus on international trade and logistics, rural growth and supply chains, global health and wellness, and learning and skills development provide opportunities for comprehensive strategies and action plans. And if you think of all these elements within your local economy and think of the clusters that can be developed and all the learning, the link between the universities and colleges and schools and your local economy, your local economic development departments, it's not difficult to actually set out a plan both locally and regionally. Okay. The UN, right, so the UN Sustainable Development Goals, there's 17 of them, but I've identified 6 out of the 17. So the 6 that I've identified really cover the health, the economic development, the education. So it's quite, and the thing about the goals, of course, they are global, and they're designed to meet the aspirations of all nations and are aligned with national traditions, policies, and priorities. And again, so if you think of this, it applies to all countries at any level within your society. These policies could be pursued and applied locally and meet the cultures. So ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. And when we talk about that, there was a program I was involved in called Passing the Baton, and it was the last Olympics that was in London, and we actually won a Inspire Mark, and the theme was quite simple, was passing the baton, inspiring peaceful, caring, and enterprising neighborhoods. And if you think of peaceful, caring, and enterprising neighborhoods, and that's the way that you regenerate your local economies. And then finally, this particular goal, which I think is number 17 on the out of the Sustainable Development Goals, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. And I think today is a good demonstration of a global partnership for sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Yes, that was Sudan Knowledge, featuring 4 presentations from Adil Ahmed Dafala from Airbus. Of Airbus Operation Limited UK, sorry, we forget. And then we had El Tigani Abdel Galil from University of Jazeera Water Management and Irrigation, that is from Sudan. And then we had Suleiman Deral, the African Global Media and Community Development here in the UK. And of course, we had the Caribbean man. This is Rudy Page of Enhanced Leadership Insights. So that's it. Now, next week, I'll be back again with some really cool presentations here. But this time, I'm going to feature only women. Yes, because they are there. You'll see Sudanese doctors, Sudanese surgeons, women I'm talking about, operating at the highest level possible in the medical profession. So anyway, look, I'm scuffling a lot. You are watching a man called JJ, or a man called Jay. Yes, I know many of you call me Joseph. It's a long name. Call a man called Jay. That's easy. It's easy to remember. So until then, next week though, I'll be with you same time, same day, and that is a Wednesday night. But also, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more, because there are plenty of things that you will see, or you can watch anytime you want. And on that note, ciao. It's gone.